is emerging, which is called wet bulb temperature. The wet bulb temperature is also the direct impact of the worsening of the climate change and the global warming induced climate change. By the wet bulb temperature, we mean there is going to be sort of a saturation level of the atmospheric water content, water molecules. If it reaches 100%, you can't perspire, and your body will not cool down. That is, I mean, people will die. So that is in fact not just for theoretical, might happen, and we are already reaching that kind of a situation. And also in other parts of the country, there is going to be excessive heat. If that kind of a heat happens 50 degree above 50-55 degrees Celsius, if that happens in India, you will know what is going to happen given the population density. Now, given that fact that climate change is not a fiction and it is very much real, so let's see what our the political dispensation, what our political government institutions are doing with a view to really getting over the water stress. I think that is a context in which I just mentioned that are we hiding behind the climate change, or what exactly have we got to do? Next slide, please. So therefore, we are saying that but has got a meaning. There's lots of things at the forefront. So the but, when I say but, several things are behind us. So but can we hide behind climate change for all our sins and woes? That's how I really put it. Let's see what are they. Now there are several major cities. Next slide. There are several major cities in the country today, which are really in a very bad shape. In fact, next slide. So the capital city itself is in a very bad shape, and the Delhi, Chennai, Agra, Jaipur, Ahmedabad, Indore, Kanpur, Nashik, Lucknow, Hyderabad, Bangalore. All these cities are in extreme risk due to lack of source of fresh water supply. I mean, I don't know how, I cannot really visualize what is really going to happen. And these cities are also the business wise, commercial center wise, manufacture wise, are the leading cities in the country. And these cities are also the major cities which contribute to employment. Employment potential is very high. And these cities are also contributing to not just growth and development, but also the GDP because of the huge and flourishing business activity. But unfortunately, these cities are also drying up, not just with the freshwater supply of the surface water, but even the groundwater source is becoming more and more invisible. And it is likely that in the near future, groundwater may not be visible at all, may not be available at all. In which case, the big question mark that arises here is what is going to happen to all our business activity, commercial activity, what is going to happen to our growth and development, what is going to happen to our employment potential, and ultimately what is going to happen to the livelihoods that we have created through these industries and commercial activity in these major cities. So this is a very big question mark. So this is a context in which we are talking about the decreasing freshwater supply and increasing water stress. Therefore, the whatever I'm going to now talk about present in the context of Chennai are pretty much true of all these cities in the country today. Now, a bugging and inconvenient question. Next slide. A bugging and inconvenient question which is now arising. What are the roles and responsibilities of the urban planning authorities and city water supply boards in these cities? What are they doing? What is happening to our urban planning authorities? I am talking about the urban planning authorities because these urban planning authorities are pretty much responsible for land use, for scientific land use, for preserving our peri-urban locations and water bodies and ecological hotspots and groundwater in the peri-urban locations. What are they doing? What is happening? Why is that even in the peri-urban locations? When I say peri-urban, the areas which are peripheral to the city, to the extent of something like the 2,000, 3,000 square kilometers around the city. What is happening? Why is that even leave alone the surface water, even the groundwater is drying up? But unfortunately, all our yardstick has been concentration have been on growth and development. Mindless, absolutely mindless urban expansion. And all that we are concentrating is on attracting more FDI, There is lots of competition among the states in the country in terms of attracting foreign direct investment. Yes, we do, but we never worry about the fact that the city development urbanization is a one-way traffic. Once you urbanize, you cannot de-urbanize. Therefore, you have got to be doubly careful when you do the urbanization, when you do the urban planning. That is not being done. Unfortunately, because the urbanization is a one-way process, and now we are suffering. Many cities are suffering for want of the basic needs. Next slide. Now, be aware of the fact the huge and growing challenges that cities are confronted with in India today. Many cities are confronted with a busting economic activity. As I said earlier, really busting. When I say busting, I mean there's more activities are now coming up. Now, as I said, there is also competition. There's increasing demographic pressure and the density of. When I said the increasing demographic pressure, it is because of the lots of a migration of population, not just from one city to another, one state to another. There's also lots of migration from rural to urban area. Rural urban migration is very high. In fact, I call it sort of, I mean, and not sarcastically, it's also true in the process of urbanization, rural urban migration, we are converting rural poverty into urban poverty because the urban poverty in the recent times has gone up enormously by 40%, 45%, 50% in some cities. So urban poverty is increasing tremendously, and people are struggling to meet even their basic needs like water. Okay. Now, yeah, and also in the process, what happens is that this kind of urbanization is not prosperity induced. There's a difference between prosperity induced migration and distress induced migration. The kind of migration that is taking place from one state to another and from rural to urban area, these are absolutely distress induced migration. Prosperity induced migration is one where people migrate for want of education, for want of settlement and have a better living and so on. But these are only distress induced migration, which contributes to growth of slums. That is why you will see that many cities today, the slum population has gone up to 30 to 40%. And there is increase in the footloose population. And there is increase in the homeless population. What do we do? So, and also there is a non-availability of land. And also there is unscientific waste management. Waste management has become a huge issue in all these cities. Waste management, just not solid waste, liquid waste, biomedical waste, electronic waste, all kinds of waste, and people are finding it difficult to survive. People do survive with the waste, and waste management is really going to become a major issue, and it is already has become a major issue in many cities. Now, as I said, this increasing this sort of the development of the cities also contributes to increasing environmental risks and ecological imbalances. Why ecological imbalances? Because we are losing the hotspots. We are looking the buffer zones in each city. We are losing ecological hotspots. We are losing the water buffers and many problems. There are no greeneries. And eventually it contributes to rapidly increasing urban heat, and we call the increasing concentration of the concrete jungles. These high-rise concrete jungles absorb heat and releases heat, and that is really compound cumulatively the climate change induced global warming the global warming induced climate change, and also the urban heat that is really going to become a serious issue in the days to come. And there is traffic congestion, air pollution, mobility constraints, inadequate protected drinking water supply and the drainage system, increasing health security concerns, vanishing green cover and open space, neglect of water bodies, rivers, streams, marshlands, beaches and floodplains, estuaries, a lack of scientific flood management practices, and so on. Most importantly, what is happening to our urban rivers? And these are all the raising concerns. And this is what we are confronting in almost all major cities in the country today. Next slide. Now, and in the process, we forget about respecting the fundamentals of urban world. And each city has got to really respect their given fundamentals, because you do whatever urban planning that you want to do, this urban planning should be should go with respect to the fundamentals. In fact, this is what is called the location-specific analysis or situation analysis, and nobody is undertaking that kind of a location-specific situation analysis where you really understand the given fundamentals of each city. And if you don't do that, all your urban planning will completely misfire. Next slide. Now, what are the fundamentals of the urban world that I'm talking about? You really have to find out whether it is a coastal city or inland city. But what is the drainage driver, the density of drainage? When I say the density of drainage should be calculated with respect to a given population and with respect to each individual. And there is a decreasing per capita drainage space in each city because of the increasing population. When these two go in opposite direction, you will suffer from the flood. Because of the increasing population density in each city, there is a decreasing space and there is a decreasing per capita drainage space. That is really contributing to this flood, and we suffer. Understand the watersheds. Every city has got watersheds. Every city has got the buffers. Every city has got a rivers, streams, and other water bodies. You understand them, locate them, find out, and see whether you can protect. And then understand the hydrogeography. Hydrogeography is basically, I'm talking about the groundwater flow, the base flow. Have we mapped them? Have we understood? That is extremely important. Understand and study the varying elevation levels, topography, levels of topography. Go back at least to the 1971 topo sheet and understand and map your elevation levels, which is extremely important. Only then you can really address the issue of flood. Understand and maintain the given slope of gravity. You have no right, and you have no control over. You should respect the given slope and the gravity, and you have no right to alter it. You have no right to redraw the geography. All our urban planners are at the moment redrawing the geography, and therefore you suffer from the flood. How the hell can you do that? You cannot do that. Identify and maintain the ecological hotspots. These are very important. This is what I would mean by the fundamentals of the urban world. What is the source of data to calculate all this? Do we have the database? In most cases, there exists no data. In which case, you better collect the data. You go and ask for this data. How many urban planners, how many city development boards, metropolitan development authorities have this data? I really don't know. You really have to calculate this. And if not, please make sure that you have this data. Go back to the 1971 topo sheet, put them all in JS, make sure that you develop this database, and then have use the latest NRSC data, National Remote Sensing data, and then see what changes have you made. Make sure that these data sets are available for people to really understand and make research and make the development activities. Next slide. Let me quickly give the example of the Chennai city. Now, although this is an example, as I said earlier, this is pretty much true of all cities in the country today. Now, the total area of the Chennai Metropolitan Development Authority at the moment is 1,189 square kilometers, and the present population is 10 million, 1 crore. Okay, 1,189 square kilometers is the present CMD area. Now, this CMDA, Chennai Metropolitan Development Authority area, is going to get expanded to covering an area of 8,800 square kilometers with a population. It is going to cover almost two adjoining districts of Tiruvallur and Kanchipuram, and two taluks, big taluks of a Vellore district of Nemmeli and Arakonam. So this is going to be a huge area, and this is going to be a part of in the near future is going to become the present the future CMDA, and they have already planned it. In fact, they conducted for this public hearing. I was also part of the public hearing, and lots of problems there. Anyway, let me not go into the details. So this is going to be the extended the CMDA area. Now I want in the next slide. You look at the next slide. This is just a visual to give you an example of how Chennai suffered in 2015 flood, and these are the pictures where you will see that the damage was in fact unprecedented. People say that it was the flood of the century, and we had received something like 2,700 or close to 3,000 millimeters of rainfall, and in 24 hours we had something like 570 or 600 millimeters, and it's a huge rainfall, obviously, no doubt about it. And we lost something like a 5,700 people, and the total loss was to the order of something like 20,000 crores. This happened in 2015, and you see that in the Adayar River, one of the important major rivers, this is the kind of a slope that you see. I used the GPS visualizer and put that in a graph. You will see that in several parts that the river rises, and the river has to have a gentle slope from the head to tail and where it reaches the Bay of Bengal. But you will see that this river has got lots of ups and downs, mainly because of the dumping of all kinds of waste, particularly the building debris. And you will see that this has really created lots of problem. And this is one of the biggest sources of the flood in 2015. That is why I'm showing this. And in fact, I doubted it. I put that in the GPS visualizer. I could usually see that, oh my God, this is how in each, wherever there is a peak in the river, it reaches up upwards, and there exists a flood. This is the problem. And this is how we maintain the river. And this is one of the main reasons why the water flow was not smooth enough to in reaching the Bay of Bengal. Now, Chennai city, as a rule, should not have experienced a flood as it occurred in 2015. I tell you why. Chennai is actually a unique city. Nowhere else in the country has got this kind of the flood carrier. We have got a beautifully distributed urban rivers in the city. And the northern part, we have got Aranyar and Posastaliyar, two major rivers coming from Andhra Pradesh, joining Bay of Bengal, and joins sea in a place called Ennore. And in south we got Adayar River, and further south we got in the center we got a Comb River. Further south we got Pala River, and we got 16 major drains and streams. All of them take water to the Bay of Bengal. And cut across all these we got a man-made canal called Buckingham Canal. With all these major rivers and Buckingham Canal, these are called flood carriers. Why the hell did we suffer? Why Chennai city suffered in 2015? So this is where the urban planners have failed. Why is that our rivers are the sewage carriers? Why is that these urban rivers, fantastic urban rivers, are the rivers which carried the solid waste and biomedical waste and building debris? And so we suffered. And so this happened in 2015. Look at 2016. The next slide you will see in the 2016, we suffered due to flood. Very next year, with the 2,700 millimeters of rainfall in 2015, in 2016, the city suffered, and we called the drought of the century. And this is what happened. People want, you will see as usual, thousands of trucks started transporting water from the peri-urban locations to the Chennai city. And this is something, I can't bear it. I can't really understand how this can happen. Now, you will see that Chennai city, as a rule, as I said before, should not suffer from flood and should not suffer from drought, because Chennai city is a city of abundant rainfall. Vishwanath will tell you that Bangalore is the average rainfall is something like 850 or 860 millimeters, whereas Chennai city is average rainfall is 1,350 millimeters of rainfall. With this kind of abundant rainfall, with the endowed rivers and with the endowed thousands of water bodies around Chennai city, why is that the city is suffering from the drought and flood? This is what I said, that don't hide behind climate change if there is a flood and if there is a drought, because this is a governance failure, I would very much say. And look at this is a rainfall data we plotted from 1960 to 2013. You will see that in most of the years, the rainfall is more than 1,300, 1,400. And as you will see that once in 4 years or 5 years, we got a huge flood with lots of rainfall, and it's exceeded very often 1,800 millimeters of rainfall or 1,500 500 millimeters of rainfall. I mean, this is ridiculous that the Chennai city is suffering from flood and drought, and we could not. And look at the next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide. And so you will see that in this map, this is a drainage map of next slide, please. This is a drainage map of the proposed the Chennai Metropolitan Development Authority CMA area. And this is a drainage system we have at the moment. And this is a drainage system, and this is also a drainage system with so many canals and drains and tanks and water bodies. You see, and this is going to be part of now the Chennai city, Chennai metropolitan area. Go to next slide. And in the next slide, you will see that these are the water bodies. These are the water bodies and the rivers and so on. Look at the way these water bodies are have suffered and encroached and with dumped with the garbage and not protected, completely encroached. In 2015, with so much of water, these water bodies remained dry. That is why we suffered due to drought in 2016. Now, we also have an excellent buffer called a wetland, particularly a marshland. Usually, it used to be 7,000 acres. Now it is reduced to less than 500 acres. Unfortunately, now this is encroached. This used to be a beautiful, fantastic buffer which contributed to the groundwater to the entire South Madras. Today, this is reduced and it is dumped with the garbage and with the polluted water. Unfortunate. Just next slide. See, this is the Palikane marsh today. This is the buffer they're talking about. This is where we are encroached. And this is where everywhere you will see the building. There's a hospital, the National Institute of Ocean Technology, a lot of buildings and the commercial complexes, IT industry, and so on and so forth. And the road bifurcates this into, in fact, as a matter of fact, and you will see even the tidal park in the OMR up to Satyabama University and up to Madhya Kailash, it is part of, originally it is part of the Palikane marsh and then the buffer for the South Madras. We have encroached, we have occupied, and now this is how we have treated, this is how our urban planners have functioned. Now this is again next to say the part of the marshland that I'm talking about. Look the way we have dumped the garbage there. Now, so we have encroached all the commons. These commons are either legally they have encroached, some of them have become legalized after some time, and some of them remain as still illegal. You know, the encroachment. And I can give you lots of examples. I don't go into all the details because there is no time. And now, what is the current scenario? Despite huge growth, next slide. Despite the huge growth of cities in India, the authorities never address the key issues and concerns of urban water management. There are a large number of issues I've listed. Do you see that while cities and city population expand endlessly, supply sources remain more or less the same? Despite this problem, why there is no awakening? Water supply pipelines network is age old. And now you talk about the water shortage and the leakages. About something like 20 to 40% water is lost due to leakage. And the freshwater supply and sewage in many parts of the city, and it's true of many cities in the country, they mix. And the purified water is supplied through the dirty pipelines only to impure the water again. The best example I can think of is when the water is supplied from the desalination plants in Nemmeli and in Minjur, the pure water with a TDS level of something like 100 is supplied, is let into the pipes. I live in, for instance, the East Coast Road. I get the water from the Nemmeli desalination plant. When I test the water that is supplied, when I test it, it is something like a 550 or 600 TDS. How can this happen? When it is let out into the pipe, it is 100 TDS. When I receive it, it is 600 TDS. So what is happening in between? So you supply purified water. In between, the water is impure, and then people get the impure water supply. How can you call it a protected water supply? There's a huge leakage, as I said, mentioned before. Many parts are still uncovered with the piped water supply, and the situation worsens due to growing urban slum population. At the decreasing per capita water availability of urban water and increasing dependent upon groundwater. In many cities in India today, including Chennai, Coimbatore, Karur, Namakkal, Salem, Tirupur, etc., groundwater is mined. What is groundwater mining? We call something groundwater mining when you are not in a position to recharge. So there is absolutely no recharge taking place, but you keep pumping groundwater, which means you are by mining groundwater, which is going to result in depletion. How are you going to survive? Since Tamil Nadu has a coastal length of 1,076 kilometers, the seawater intrusion has become a serious issue, a major threat to even existing groundwater stock. And there is going to be coastal erosion, Coastal flooding is already happening in many parts of the coastal part in the parts of Tamil Nadu. And most critical, no segregation of black and gray water. Everything is mixed. What kind of a technology is this? What kind of a mind is this? Why is that we are still not in a position to segregate black water and gray water and then put them all together? And you are saying that you are doing the you call it a wastewater. I don't call it a wastewater. I call it used water. And you do the used water management unscientific, absolutely unscientific. We've got huge plants everywhere and they break down. And you really have to go in for a decentralized, smaller used water management strategies. And you don't do that. And this is a problem. This is becoming chronic in major cities. And then we only contribute to the existing problems and existing concerns. But how are you going to get away from this? Now, from this presentation, what are the key takeaways? Most important, recover immediately all ecological hotspots. As far as Chennai is concerned, the 4,000 plus key major tanks in the Chennai metropolitan area, in the proposed Chennai metropolitan area, and we need to store water in all these. I calculated, you can store up to 70 TMC feet of water in these water bodies around Chennai with 1,350 millimeters of rainfall, normal rainfall. You can easily store up to 70 TMC feet of water, and once in 4 5 years you get a flood year, and you can store much more. And I'm telling you, if you increase the capacity and if you double the capacity, you store much more. You will have no problems about drinking water. You don't need a desalination plant. You don't need to get water from the Krishna. You don't need water from Kaveri. You got lots of water available, locally available within your own area. Why is that we are not in a position to store water in all this? So there is a scientific urban and peri-urban land use policy which is most critical. Unfortunately, we really have to do that, and we really have to understand. We really have to pinpoint what are the bottom line principle which cannot be violated. Now, can we evolve the bottom line principles of urban management, urban and peri-urban management? This is extremely important to evolve the bottom line principles and which we cannot be violated. Now, retrieve all three urban rivers, not just Chennai. In all major cities, it is extremely important to retrieve all major rivers because these urban rivers are primarily flood carriers. And if you don't retrieve the urban rivers, you will naturally suffer from flood. Then don't put blame on the climate change. Okay. Then you regenerate all rivers, which would mean you will also save the city from flood. And now, as far as city is concerned, Chennai city is concerned, there are 16 major streams. And there are like Mambalam Canal, Virigambakam Canal, Velacheri Canal, Otteri Nalla, Captain Cook Canal, Vyasarbadi Canal, and much more. And these are the very important, flood carriers, and we have lost many of them. And so naturally you suffer because there is no flood carrier. You get inundated. And with this, I don't call this inundation a flood. These are man-made floods. Please don't ever call them a flood. Hydrologically, these are not floods. These are called inundations. Retrieve Buckingham Canal. And I have a plan. I sent a proposal to the government of Tamil Nadu to link the Muttukadu and the Pulikat. These are the major two big estuaries in the city, separated with a distance of 78 kilometers. So to link, there is already a canal existing. Link these two, allow the seawater and the brackish water flow, and have a circular water flow. You can have an excellent navigation canal, which means you will also absorb the seawater which is rising and which is going to come in due to the sea level rise. Okay. Now, and this is the best way you can really address the sea level rise, which might happen due to climate change. This is exactly being done in Netherlands. In Netherlands, 1/3 of the land is below sea level. They don't arrest water. They allow the water to come in. They have a series of waterways. That is one of the way you can also address in Chennai, given the fact that you've got a 1,076 kilometers length, but we don't do that. Today, the Buckingham Canal is clogged and disturbed and disconnected everywhere. Link droughts and flood. It's extremely important. You really have to link droughts and flood, and you need to have an integrated approach, integrated perspective. Taking care of flood would mean taking care of drought. You should be really prepared during the drought year, so that the very next year is going to be abundant rainfall year. so that you can store a lot of water. And storing water in water bodies, tanks, and temple tanks and so on is a matter of great importance, because we're going to recharge groundwater only with that kind of a source. Now, retrieve all estuaries where rivers conflicts with the sea. See, Chennai has got several estuaries, because we got rivers like Aranyar, Kosasthali, Coom, and Adayar River. And you just go and see how these estuaries are there. They're completely, the mouths of the river completely clogged, and you will see a lot of sand deposits, and the flood flow is not happening smoothly, and these are also completely polluted. It's extremely important to really retrieve all the rivers, particularly the Ennur Creek, Ennur estuary, where the Arnyar and Kosasthali are, which is a major buffer for North Chennai, is now completely occupied by Tangetco, which is the Tamil Nadu electricity generation distribution company, which is completely occupied, something like 15-20 acres of the river space. Actual river space is encroached. How this river is going to absorb flood, how the water is going to be sent to the Bay of Bengal. So naturally, the North Chennai is affected much more due to flood than the South Chennai. Now, do not use urban rivers for discharging sewage. At the moment, urban rivers are sewage carriers and industrial effluent. Let's not do that. Don't hide behind climate change, but for the gross institutional failure. That's my key issue. Therefore, please undertake a scientific risks and vulnerability and situation analysis to save the city from floods. And very important, you really have to also undertake impact analysis. We are not doing any of that. And most important, institute what is called the rainfall accounting protocol. Rainfall, when I say rainfall accounting protocol, I know that Bangalore receives 800 millimeters of rainfall. I know Chennai receives 1,300 millimeters of rainfall. I know Kerala receives 3,000 millimeters of rainfall. Now, what does it mean for a common man? How many teams if it and how many million cubic meters of water? The 70-80% is runoff. You are allowing the water to run off. You are not in a position to save it, and then you keep tapping water from your rooftop, and you call it rainwater harvesting. I don't say it is bad. You do that, but most important ways and methods and measures of rainfall harvesting structures are all your tanks, areas, temple tanks, your ponds, etc. But you are allowing them to remain dry, and then at the end of the day, with the meager rainfall, you only try to harvest the rainfall through from your rooftop, which is horrible, which is very good. Let's do that. But please put all your efforts and energy in the rainwater harvesting into your the water bodies, small water bodies, which is actually which are the most important rainwater harvesting structures, but we neglect them, unfortunately, and then we suffer. Now, and lastly, what does it mean? The land, water, and people. The land, water, and people are already vulnerable. Please acknowledge the gross institutional failure, at least from now. Please acknowledge the fact that there is a gross institutional failure. Recover all ecological hotspots such as marshlands, estuaries, and water bodies, and so on, rivers, and so on. And please try and link droughts and flood. Taking care of flood would mean also take care of drought. Drought and floods should be seen as opportunities for recoveries and regeneration purposes. I'm saying, let me say once again, droughts and floods should be seen as opportunities for recoveries and regeneration of resources. Very important. Therefore, please don't hide behind climate change for the existing vulnerability and for all governance failure. So there is a huge need for bridging the gap between policy action, which is there's a lots of policy analysis, there is a lots of policy documents existing, not just in Tamil Nadu and Chennai city, for many cities and many states and for the whole country. But then huge gap exists between the policy action, and we need to bridge the gap. Now, that's my presentation. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Professor Janakarajan. We will come out of this hiding quickly, I believe. We will
hopefully,
not hide
hopefully, yes.
We will not hide more into what you have presented in a very lucid fashion on where all we are heading to. We are having huge expertise, already aligned in several ways in this country. and particularly in the state of Tamil Nadu and city of Chennai, there is a huge amount of expertise available all across sectors. Doing several things which is good for the society. And we are hoping that several of these expertise or experts would be in a position to try and address the issues that you have indicated there. And before somebody else would come in and discuss on what they have to say on all this, my first thought is that the one single thing that you have indicated would be of great importance would be on data.
Yes.
Data is the biggest challenge that anyone would have to start with. Suppose somebody wants to do an intervention. We don't have anything. We don't have data. Data, of course, it's available in several ways of accessing it. So several people have put it in a form that they're able to use the data for something else, for something within their own setup. But data is not available for many people to understand what it is, why it is, and so on. So I probably feel that data is a big gap that we need to address. And ICCW has started working on this, on something called Hydro Informatics platform, wherein we are trying to capture all the data that is available into a digital format, which will help many people to access that and give their own expertise for making quick decisions. So that's where I would like to come with from where you indicated what are all the several issues. I have been in Chennai for the past 50 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So in this 50 years, I don't know what I did for betterment of that city, but you have indicated huge amount of challenges and issues that we need to think about and do something quickly. Any questions from Professor Pradeep or Mr. Vishwanath or anyone who would like to ask some questions? They are ready to ask now.
Well, first of all, it was a very passionate appeal to save the country, Chennai, and do not fall behind the various kinds of protections that we can fall behind, either blaming it on the system or climate or whatever else. One thing that has come out very clearly from your presentation is that you don't need much. You just need the ancient wisdom. Now, with the available water, and if we had the same kind of tanks as before, we had the protection mechanisms as before, we would have had water security. Now, this is in a way, again, coming to Sripati's point of data. That is, how long can we go even if we have those? Let us say put Chennai back into 1900 with all its water holding capacity and whatever else. It still puts a limit on people, the population and the density, and and we have put in a number of additional aspects of development. Our water bodies cannot take all these soaps and detergents and many others. There is a natural limit on it, and that puts another kind of limit on any society. And are we at that limit? And where do we go after that? That's a very important concern. Otherwise, of course, we have to have technological intervention, and many societies have water holding capacities far more than their rainfall, something like 250%, whatever. Should we plan beyond this? This is the first immediate thought that I have. The second point is that today people say that the global water if you want to do used water, as I would use your terminology, and if you are to recycle it well, the total investment cost for the whole world is something like $60 trillion. There is, of course, a limit, and computations suggest that Africa and many parts of Asia will not even get there by 2050. 2050. So, is there hope? And how do we plan it better for India? I will leave it here with these two comments or questions. And of course, I know that plenty of fantastic people are listening to this, and they would have questions. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
What would be your comment?
You want me to comment now? Can I make the comment now?
Yeah, you would like.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the comment. In fact, my observation will be, it's a very good remark. You really, rang the alarm bell. The issue is really going to become more, impacting in the days to come. But what we should do is actually to enter into the plan of accounting, and not just accounting water, and also have to make people accountable. Right now, there is no accountability procedure and no accounting protocols for water that we have. So that is what I would think. It's the way most important. See, for instance, I tell you, let's suppose at the head, the Metro Water Board, so in whatever city, Chennai or Bangalore or Delhi, they claim that they are supplying per day something like 800 milliliters per day or 700 milliliters per day is what their claim, because so much water is let out from their tank. Now, how much water is actually received by the people? It's 60% or 65%. Now, my question is, what is happening to the balance? Why is that nobody is talking about it? You still claim that you're let out 800 or 900 milliliters per day, but people don't receive so much, and plus people receive dirty water. So this is what is called accountability, accounting protocol. I mean, who is going to do that? Not only that, I mean, most importantly, which I've been saying for at least a few years now, rainfall should be accounted. Your rainfall is the only source of water anywhere you live in the world. Rainfall is the only source of water. Now, are you accounting it? If you are not in a position to account it, you have to tell me why you are not in a position to account it. Please do that. I give you another example for accounting or water budgeting. From a particular reservoir, there will be an announcement saying that the government has released 3,000 cusecs of water or 4,000 cusecs of water. I want an account for it. What has happened? When I say 4,000 cubic feet per second of water is let out, I would know how many million cubic meters you are releasing per day and for a week and for a month. I want to know what happened to the water. Whereas the farmers don't claim, the farmers don't get that much water. In between, what happens? What is happening? So these are the whereas if you go to other countries, it is judiciously managed. Every drop of water is judicially managed. Why is it we are not doing? Why are we lagging behind? So the same thing happens in the case of urban water, rural water, in accounting, and budgeting, rainfall, and so on. I think unless we change, unless there is a change in our approach, in our mindset, and in our data management, nothing is going to change. And there has got to be accountability. You have to make somebody accountable for all that. Even for the sewage generation, there should be account. You are letting out so much of sewage, either gray or black water. You have to let people know, and you have to generate a database and maintain. This is so much of sewage is generated, so much is treated. We have done so much with the treated water, and we let out so much of untreated water into the sea or into the drains of whatever. Please account it. Whom are you going to make accountable for all that?
So, Mr. Vishwanath, any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Professor Janet. As usual, wide in your canvas and deep in your footprint in terms of understanding it. Professor, we've been on the journey for so many years. You've been there longer, but we've been there. Shekhar is there. So many other people are here, right? We know what needs to be done. Right? Broadly, that list has been repeated ad nauseum in many fora. My question to you is this. It looks like our governance institutions are stuck in the 20th century, whereas our problems are of the 21st century. The 20th century institutions of supply and taking away sewage and chucking it somewhere else, filling up wetlands, filling up water bodies, that era is gone. The new era has come. And though climate change is upon us, as you say, it need not be used as an excuse. How do you think we should modify our institutions to make sure that they're able to amalgamate more of people's ideas and make sure that they translate into the ground? That's one question.
No, Vishwanath, as I just indicated before, you are right. Actually, the problems are very well defined. People know about it. But for all the problems, as Professor Pradeep was talking about, do we have a database? You know that the problem exists there, but we don't have the database to support it. For instance, how many people would know that up to 15 kilometers from sea, the water has become either saline or brackish? Do you have a database? I want to know how much sewage is generated in the city of Chennai. I want to know why is that you are not in a position to generate a database. I want to know how have you used the treated water. You claim that you are treating water. Have you used it? And what are you doing with the sewage, the untreated sewage water? I mean, at least maintain the database. You have to start somewhere. Okay.
Right. So, Professor, how will we get those databases going in the institutions?
No,
so I'll just give you an example, Professor. Sorry for interrupting. But for example, in the Bangalore Water Supply and Sewerage Board, we do not have a single hydrogeologist. Therefore, for the institution, groundwater does not exist. So the thing is, how do we change the institution to get hydrogeologists so that then they will try to create data and then do a groundwater management plan, right? So if we go to the root cause of issues, like you rightly point out in terms of data, how do we architect our institutions to do the data collection, put it up in public domain, look for feedback and change things, right? So how do we do that? That's the question.
Right. Vishwanath, the issue is very simple. We are not, it's not that, our bureaucrats, our engineers, our technocrats are not capable or not, they are not competent. They can also speak the same language like me and like you. They do have all the knowledge, required knowledge. I tell you why they are not in a position to do it, because they are governed by what is called the development and growth and development. You are putting all your energy, you are putting all your resources, you are putting all your attention to the growth of the country, growth of the state, economic development, the GDP, etc., etc. That is where you are. That is where you are putting all your. What is happening to the urban planning? Tell me. That is why I said you have to have a bottom line principle. When you develop your city, when you expand the city, have a bottom line principle. This is what I will not and I shall not touch, but I will still develop. Can you do that? This is not sustainable. This is what UN says. Your development is not sustainable anymore. Why is that we are not talking about this sustainable development? So that is the key. So it is not that we don't know. It is not that people are not competent. They are very much. But what is really what is lacking for years, for decades now is that approach and lack of attention to the ecological issues, ecological questions, and sustainability. So you need to have a complete overhauling of the system, have to have a rethink. I would like to put it in a quote. You have to have a rethink on your urban development. You have to have a rethink on your growth and development strategy. That's what I would think.
One question from one of our participants. What is your take on water scarcity and caste-based society? I don't know why this question has come, but this question, I don't know whether we will be able to answer.
I don't know. I can only, try and, extrapolate what the gentlemen have said. I think even in rural areas, there are problems in the distribution of water, because you will see that in the so-called the scheduled caste community, wherever they live, and the so-called the scheduled tribes community, wherever they live, or the backward communities live, the distribution is really lacking, and there is a priority for giving the drinking water connection to the people where the well-to-do population live. Even in the Chennai city, for instance, in the slum population, people are still waiting day and night for the trucks to come in for getting the water. So there is no house connection, and you got the community tank, or people have to wait with the queues with the pots and etc. People have to wait in a queue for to get water from the trucks. So this is probably what it means. I mean, this is a problem. This is a chronic problem. It's a chronic big problem because of the very high density. Do you know what is the density of population in Chennai? 43,000 per square kilometer. 43,000. Yeah, and in 2011 census, it was 26,000, and we are in 2021. In 11 years' time, see how population has gone up. Huge population. Now it's unmanageable. So you have to really think of a holistic approach. You have to have a scientific, coordinated effort to address all these issues, and otherwise these problems are going to persist.
The other question is desalination a solution for our city? Does
Never.
it not cause ecological
Never,
issues?
never. In my view, desalination plants are not necessary. I said before, desalination plants contribute to quite a lot of ecological damage, particularly the coastal ecology. And you will know that the brines that is really let out of the desalination plants are hugely contributing to the problems. And you will see the fish population in 1 or 2 kilometers from the shore are affected, and the hatching is a problem. And the hatching, they have to come to the shore, and the fish population are not coming to the shore. And small fishermen who use the smaller boats to catch fish in up to 2 kilometers from the sea, and they have lost their livelihoods. And there is in fact an emerging sea wall with the salt within the sea. So unfortunately, the desalination plants are contributing to huge coastal ecological damage, which are not addressed. And to get 1 liter of fresh water with a TDS level of something like 50 to 100, you have to let out something like maybe 70 liters, 80 liters, because the TDS level in the sea water goes up to 30,000. Now, what are we going to do? Are we addressing this issue? So therefore, this is not Akshaya Patra where you can never expand your desalination plant. You see, I'm technologically, the technology is very good. I'm not against the technology, but is this a place where you should use the technology? Chennai city is not the place where you should use the technology for supplying water. It's okay for Israel and the Middle Eastern countries, and so certainly not for Chennai, where your rainfall is 1,350 millimeters. This is one of the most important issues I always say, is where it really that translates into you'll see that there is a governance failure, and this is a lazy solution for Chennai. This is absolutely lazy solution, because you live in the sea, therefore you can always do the desalination. Sorry, that's not what you should do.
One question from our regular participant, one Mr. Ram Shankar. You might have heard about him. He's a part of the Rain Center in
Shekhar Raghavan, yes. Shekhar Raghavan, I know, yes.
Shekhar Raghavan's place is where Mr. Ram Shankar owns that place, in fact. So he has given this for the purpose of the Rain Center. He's saying, we have been discussing, instead of consulting with rich indigenous expertise, as we said in the beginning, we have a lot of indigenous expertise. Government seems to be keen on engaging some external foreign consultants, and they give solutions to drain water to the sea,
yes,
rather than conserving it in water bodies. How do we interact with the government and get something out of it? Ram Shankar is there on the video right now. So his question I have already read, but you have
Ram Shankar is absolutely right. Ram Shankar is absolutely right. In fact, there is an ongoing huge stormwater drain construction going on the East Coast Road with the German consultants. I don't know why you need a stormwater drain, for instance, on the people who live on the sea, because you should allow the rainwater to percolate. That is what you should do. Rather than allowing the seawater to percolate, you construct a stormwater drain. It's a shame. Absolute shame. I mean, why is that? I mean, people are really getting agitated because people in that area, in most of the location on the seaside on the East Coast Road, people depend upon the groundwater. And you don't let the groundwater to seep in, and you are constructing a stormwater drain to take the water to a sewage. What a shame. I mean, and you appointed a German consultant with a huge cost. I tell you, in this city, and perhaps in many cities, the stormwater construction is a racket. It's a big racket. We are spending thousands and thousands of crores of rupees to construct a thousands of kilometers of a stormwater drain, only to take sewage in there. And then during the rainfall, during the flood season, you see most of these stormwater drains are clogged, and it doesn't carry stormwater. And unfortunately, and you create asset, and not scientifically constructed, but you create an asset, but unfortunately you forget it. Create an asset and forget it, you don't maintain it. And these stormwater drains are also constructed scientifically, following the slope and the gravity. And very often the junctions of the stormwater drains are clogged, and water never flows. And during a flood season, this sewage comes onto the road, and the streets are flooded. Really unfortunate. It is it's a sickening. You see, scientifically, if you look at it, with something like a 2 centimeters of rainfall, in about 15 feet width of the road, there should be not a single drop of water with the 2 centimeters of rainfall in 1 hour. Does that happen? With the 2 centimeters, 20 millimeters of rainfall in 1 hour, you see most of the houses are flooded because the houses are below roads. Because you keep raising the road, unfortunately, the house complexes are going down. This is what the urban management, what are they doing? So unfortunately, I mean, what Ramshankar says is absolutely right. Lots of not only indigenous knowledge. I mean, you need a common sense. What you need is a common sense. Why do you need a stormwater drain? And the stormwater drain should carry stormwater, but it carries sewage. Is it right? Who is going to really address this issue?
Professor, I think I met with you in 2019 when we, had all these meetings with the candidates who were standing for the parliamentary elections. So at that time, I had just introduced myself to you, if you may recall. So this was in one of the ECR locations where, this meeting of all the candidates, the MPs came and spoke what they were.
Right. I remember, yes.
So I don't think there was any question from anybody on this kind of water management related issues. So I was just asking how do we get these, the legislative bodies to enact a law? We were talking about linking flood management and drought management. So how do we make sure that, we put enough pressure on these people to enact a law, not to drain water, but to actually manage floods such that next year we don't have droughts and so on? That is the question.
Very important question again. See, in a democratic country, we can force people for enactment of law. If you are not satisfied, if the laws are not enforced, you can go to the court, and people can give representations, and you can't do much. And this is what you can do in a democratic country like ours. But unfortunately, I must tell you, the law enforcement and monitoring mechanisms are extremely weak. That is where there is no accountability. You tell me, do we have laws in our country that rivers can be polluted? There is no law which suggests that rivers can be polluted. Why our rivers are polluted? Why is that our rivers and water bodies are encroached? Who is going to take care? Why is that our governance system, our institutional agencies are keeping quiet? What is the role of the Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board, or for that matter, state pollution control boards in all cities? Why is that our rivers in the country are polluted? No river supports it. But you see, that is because our law enforcement and monitoring mechanisms are extremely low, very, very bad. So that is why it's important that,
Yeah, one question from one Yuvraj Segod, and he's asking, can you suggest some ways on water and environmental for securing the villages as green?
Sorry, there is an interruption. May I know what the question is?
Question is, he wants to know, is there any suggestion on how to secure the villages for its greenery or for the resources that it is having or it is possessing?
Yes, right. Okay. can I answer that?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, in fact, I sent a proposal earlier to the government, the previous government, and I'm still trying to really convince the existing government also. See, every government, and in fact, it goes back to what Professor Pradeep said. Every government should really, every village should have a scientific database. Right now, we don't have the scientific database because for me to have to understand the watersheds in each village, I really have to have a database on the topography and the gravity. We don't have it. So every village should be on a GIS. Geographic, every village should be put and graphed and drafted in a geography, put up in a geographic information system. We are not doing that. Why is that we are lagging in that? Tell me. What is the problem? Unless you do that, you will not be in a position to understand your drainage system. So because it's not that every village doesn't get the rainfall. Every village gets a rainfall. Every village has got their own watersheds. Every village has got their own watersheds. Every village has got the slope and gravity. And we don't know because in a span of 2 hours, 3 hours, there will be huge rainfall and water will run off and your groundwater is still not recharged and all your watersheds are dry. So this is where we were to learn from the Israel. We may have political problems with Israel. Israel's first priority is to understand the geography. You have to understand your geography, hydrogeographic gravity, and the slope. You have to map it in order to really save water. You don't do that. So that is where you need the scientific database. This is what I've been suggesting. I've been suggesting this, and unless you do this, you cannot really understand where your ecological hotspots are, where your water hotspots are, watersheds are, where you can store water. You don't know. You will not know. Unfortunately, the watersheds, I call them watersheds, water bodies that existed 30, 40 years ago are never existing today in many parts of the country and many parts of the state today. So we have to do that on a war footing, and these watersheds can be retrieved easily. You can retrieve it, not a problem. You see, in country like Japan, where the land space is so scarce, they are trying to create underground reservoirs. They are creating underground reservoirs by harvesting rainwater through stormwater drain that they are constructing. What are we doing? We are eating away. We are destroying the water bodies and the watershed that exist on surface, over ground. Unfortunate.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Pradeep has some questions. He has raised his hand.
Yeah.
Unmute, please. Unmute.
Well, if I have time, I thought of bringing up another point. There is many people, well, our developmental policies keep saying that if I have to grow, if I have to increase GDP, I have to consume more. I have to use more water. And therefore, I have to extract more water. Therefore, I have to have more so-called waste or used water. Now, there is this concept of peak water, and I'm sure you would be aware of this. So I just want to show you the screen, wherein this is a concept of the peak water concept. In a PNAS article, Peter Gleek says that if you look at the GDP in America of 2005 as taken as the base, you see the GDP is growing, but water withdrawal has leveled off by 1980. Water withdrawal continues to be like this, and even with that, GDP can grow in a society where technology really contributes, services contribute. So if you were to take this kind of a position, unless we reach to some kind of a technological growth, we will continue to draw more, we will continue to throw more into wastewater.
Yes.
So how do you react to this, and what is the tipping point for us?
Pradeep, it's an extremely important point, extremely important graph that you have shown to us, and I'm really grateful for you for having raised this question. See, the issue is one of, as I said before, we are caught in a vicious cycle. We are caught in a vicious cycle because we talk about the growth and development, we talk about the investments, and we are talking about more manufacturing, and we are talking about more consumerism. You have to consume more, and you have to increase people's income so that people consume more, so that our industry grows, and so that our GDP grows. This is we are in that kind of a cycle, and we have rightly shown a graph in the context of US where there is a tipping point where the use of water is really flattened and still the economy grows. Very well. Precisely the point. That is precisely the where the technology plays a very important role. That is where you are becoming water positive. Today we are not positive. We are not water positive. In fact, I was making these presentations also to the groups in Confederation of Indian Industry and in the chambers of commerce, and I insisted on the issue of what is called the water positive. How many people are water positive? If you take 1 liter from the ecosystem, and you have to really contribute 2 liters to the existing ecosystem from where you're taking the water, that is where you really figure out how you will save water, how you will harvest water, how you will conserve water, how you will contribute to the ecosystem, how, most importantly, how you will treat the water that the effluent that you are generating, and you are not at the moment, you are not concerned about it at all. You keep manufacturing, and you keep working for getting more and more fresh water without really bothering about what is really happening to the used water. So the tipping point emerges only when you really think along these lines. It is not to say, I'm not blaming only the government. Governments can only go up to a point. People, all stakeholders have to really contribute. All stakeholders have to really think alike and work for the society. And if you don't, and no point in contributing, putting blame only on the government. Governments can, of course, there are problems in the governance, but then we also have to think about what other sectors are doing. Farmers also, industries also. See, you don't need 4 inches of water, stagnant water for raising a paddy. You just need wetting. Why do you want a stagnant water? What is happening to technology? Why is that we are not in a position to contribute to that to the farming community? So at the moment, we are using 1 cubic feet of water to irrigate 5,000 acres of land. You don't need. With the 1 cubic feet of water, you can easily grow 10,000 acres of land, paddy. Why are we not in a position to do that? So it's extremely necessary that we need to really achieve and work towards the tipping point. I fully agree with you, Professor Pradeep, and technology plays an extremely important role. But at the same time, we need a multi-stakeholders initiative, and we need a multi-stakeholders engagement. Otherwise, the technology will stand aloof.
Thank you, Professor Janakarathan, for the insights on several questions that we had in our minds. And it's going to be a big journey that we need to take now from what we have thought about and what is the real condition or real situation in the city of Chennai. And the many failures that you indicated, I think we should learn from these failures and try and at least address them. If at all that we are able to solve it and be getting some good results out of it, we are not very sure about it, but at least the addressing part of such issues could be attempted as a joint initiative. As you said, a collaborative or participatory approach is the only answer to this, I believe, from all the words you mentioned. And you have given a lot of confidence to people like us who can work on this, who can contribute to this as the experts that we bring in, expertise that we bring in. So thank you, sir, for the excellent interaction that you have been sharing with us. I hope the participants were able to grasp at least something out of what you said on several issues that you raised. And as usual, during our water talks, what we do is we compile all the talks, and we are in the process of bringing up a coffee table book on the several experts or the several thoughts that they have shared with us. We are trying to consolidate all these the initiatives into a form of a book or a consortia of several points together. We will also approach you on what thoughts you can share with us in the book that we are preparing. And then, probably for every 10 editions of the Water Talks, we'll have one short book on the expertise that you have, the experts have shared with us, and we will try and revisit these books as and when possible. So this is one thought, and as every time we do with Water Talks, we go to the next level of engaging with the experts. In the past, we have been talking to several experts, and they have presented their experiences in our Water Talks. We will again take up this opportunity to set up some individual meetings with you on several topics that are of mutual interest for the city of Chennai particularly, since we have been in Chennai and we have been enjoying the city of Chennai and the groundwater and the rainwater and so on. But we are again coming into the same issues, drought or floods like that. So we will have to find a common platform together, Professor Janagarajan, that we are able to serve something to the society based on all our experiences that we have gathered and the expertise that we have with us, IIT Madras behind us, and several other faculty members who have been our supporters in this journey. So we will again come back to you, Professor, on how we will be able to engage with you and how you can contribute to the ideas at ICCW. And once again, I thank Professor Pradeep, Professor Janagarajan for sharing their insights and thoughts and questions, and to our participants who have been patiently, coming back to us every month on month. They are coming back to us on this platform and sharing several ideas. I see Mr. Shekhar Raghavan also in this, participants list, who's been patiently listening. I don't know whether he wants to ask any question, but he's been patiently listening to the discussions. And we have Dr. Indukant Regade also. You might have heard about him, Professor Janagarajan. So we have all the experts around us. We need to strike something quickly and find out how we can serve something to the society immediately, I would say. We don't know how much time is left with us in doing something like this. So as I said, we have a hydroinformatics platform, which is again a source of data that we are trying to bring out and collect a lot of information, collect a lot of statistics that will be useful for quick decision making. The aim is to make decisions quickly. So I will stop here and we will again reassemble for another Water Talk, probably in the next couple of months or next month to say shortly, so that we will be able to understand and do something more. I think we have one more message, or in the chat box I get one more question. It's a very long question. What is the solution to this problem? And what he's asking is, it's a very long question. With increase in urbanization and population, water demand and increasing groundwater resources are seen as a reliable resource. With tremendous groundwater extraction and comparatively low annual replenishment, the water levels are going down, resulting in drying of open wells and bore wells, which in long term will lead to a very difficult situation. So without data, without any reliable data, what is the solution to this problem? Or this is a huge cause of concern is what he is asking. Vinay Harswal is asking, what is the real solution for using reliable data or collecting reliable data and address the groundwater situation?
See, you want me to answer, Professor
Possible, because we are running short of time.
Yeah, and yeah, I know. But quickly, the two things I would like to really point out here. The key issue here is that everybody knows that the water stress is increasing, and we also know, people by and large acknowledge the fact that there is lots of institutional failure, gross governance failure, and we also have to acknowledge the fact there is a lots of lack of accountability, but there is also lots of irresponsibility from the point of view of the users, particularly the the people who use water, they don't even know where the source of water, where the water is coming from. They don't really put in effort to really conserve water. They only contribute to the sewage generation. So you need to have a comprehensive stakeholder engagement. You need to have a rethink. And most importantly, I always keep saying that, keep saying that we really have to, institute a mechanism where you account the rainfall. That is where I think people like Shekhar Raghavan is making, contributing to a change. Because unless you really, make your effort to really account the rainfall. In this particular area, we get so much rainfall. Have we stored it, and how have I used it? How have I used it? These are very important. It should be done at the village level, town level, and the state level, and the national level. And only then we will be in a position to, conserve water. And secondly, and most importantly, everybody should be water literate, and everybody should really be water positive in that approach. And one issue in terms of contributing to the groundwater recharge, because it is reaching an alarming proportion. In fact, I said it, and it was in fact made it mandatory in some parts of the state. I don't know what happened today, because there are lakhs and millions of failed borewells in the country today. There are millions of failed borewells, and these failed borewells should be converted into rainwater harvesting structures, because water level has gone down to mining of groundwater where you can't replenish. Therefore, if you want to recharge groundwater, if you want to reach at that level, the only way is to convert the existing failed borewells into rainwater harvesting structures, so that during the high rainfall region, water can be let into these failed bores so that the groundwater is recharged. If you don't do that, this is a great opportunity. If you don't do that, you will not be in a position to recharge groundwater. With the 2-3 spells of rainfall, people would say that water level has come up, that's shallow aquifer. There's a difference between a shallow aquifer and a deeper aquifer. You will only get recharge up to the shallow aquifer. If you want to reach the deeper aquifer, you really have to reach deeper, very, very, very deep, where easily you can make use of the failed bore wells and let water go there, rainwater go there, and they can recharge. That's the only way.
Thank you, Professor, for your patient, answering on this last moment. Also, questions have come. I would like to close this session right now, and we will again reassemble for the next Water Talks next month, almost in the same time. Thank you all for your participation, and thank you all for your patient listening and questioning. Thank you, Professor Janakarajan, for your time.
Thank you, Professor Sripati. Thank you, Professor Pradeep, and
our team, Radhika,
the entire team, yeah. And I would think it's a great opportunity for me to really interact with you, and I'm sure, and I'm looking forward for further opportunities to interact with you and work with you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a good day.